Hello guys, and welcome back to another cold episode. I'm back. If you didn't know, real quick, just small update, my channel got hacked and then my dad died. So lots of things have happened within my life, and that's why there haven't been videos or streams. Sorry about that. I am going to be doing videos for this next week, but my dad's funeral is at the end of the week, and after that, I will come back and do some streams and stuff like that. But Splight is now here. That's right. Splight has finally arrived. The archetype that I was most excited about coming to the game has finally emerged once again, and it is just as fun as I expected it to be. This is a super interesting archetype that allows for a lot of different various builds and a lot of varied interesting gameplay. It is a lot about board breaking and board building, but one thing that makes Splight so interesting is the fact that it can come back from a broken board and do it again. But it's also not exactly a high attack stat deck, which means that oftentimes you don't just immediately die and you have the chance to come back. But you kind of have to deal with the board multiple times. So I'm going to talk about what I have built and why I have built it the way that I have, and kind of some of the things that I have gone over. So let's quickly do the card by card, starting with the essentials. We have a triple Splite blue, we have triple Splite jet. These are the standards. Why? Because I'm playing a pure version, I'm not playing Runic. I think Runic Splite is by far the better version, especially when it comes to like tournaments, because being able to side deck out cards in the Runic Sprite variant is a little bit better, but I think on the latter, having additional hand traps and having more tech cards just automatically thrown in is a little bit more nice. So I'm playing this version, which is like the quote-unquote pure version. Next up, I am playing Pixies, and the reason for this is because when you bring back your Splite blue with Elf, you can grab up the Pixies and basically guarantee that you are winning combat against more or less anything, which is very nice, and so that's why we are playing the one of. I also considered playing Gamma Burst. I'm not a big fan of Gamma Burst, though. I think it's not as useful, so there's that. I am playing 1 red and 2 carrot, and the reason for this is because I honestly think that there are so many more ways to deal with monsters, and I think less people are actually going to be playing monsters, because I do expect Runic Sprites to be the best deck and to be what people are playing. So I'm hedging my bets and playing double carrot instead of 2 reds. That's basically it. I'm more worried about the spell traps than I am the monsters. Next up, we have ourselves the Nimble stuff. We have triple Nimble Beaver and the 1 Angler. The reason we're playing the Angler is because of Foolish Burial. You can dump it off of the Foolish Burial and then get yourself 2 Nimbles, which is very nice. And on top of it, it's just a nice another 2 to get off of a Nimble Beaver. So there's that. If you don't know Nimble Beaver, it's just a way to get 2 level 2s. That's basically it. Very nice. Pretty standard. And then we are running a whole bunch of... we're also running the 2 Sprite starters and, of course, the 1 Smashers. Pretty standard there as well. Then we're running a whole bunch of hand traps. So, we are playing double Effect Veiler. We're playing triple Maxi. We're playing double Gamma as well as the Driver. We'll talk about Gamma in a second. We're playing triple Ash Blossom, double Nib, and double Infip. These are just kind of the most hand traps that you can play, basically. And then on top of that, we are also playing the 1 Harpies and the double Cosmic. Now, granted, having access to something like Ghost Spell and Haunted Mansion is also very nice. So realistically, I should be playing that instead of like Veiler, probably. I think that would be a little bit better. But I don't have it, so there you go. What can you do? I also think that Veiler is still very nice. Having access to like multiple Veiler, or like Veiler and Imperm, is very nice as well. In case your opponent goes for like in early red, having Imperm is nice, or if they go for an early carrot, you can go for the Veiler, which is cool. And then I have a special tech in here with emergency teleport to get to your Gamma. This is also why we're playing Gamma. I think Gamma is also just very strong right now, but also giving access to a level 2 on top of being able to go emergency teleport into a level 2 is incredibly powerful and has won me several games. Emergency teleport is just an absolute powerhouse and is very, very good. It's also just like an Ash target. Normally, they'll try and save the Ash for like Splite, or Gigantic Splite, or Blue or something like that. But if you go like emergency teleport, before they even see anything, they might think that you're on Punk, and they're like, I can't deal with a Psychic End Punisher, I'm going to stop you right now. And then you just continue to combo off as if nothing happened. So, very cool. And then, of course, we have the called buys as well. I'm not playing Crossout because, I don't know, I'm just not a big fan of that card. Realistically, I should throw it in here instead of, like, the Harpy's Feather Duster, like the second Veiler or something along those lines. But, in all honesty, 40 cards, it's nice and clean. I like the hand trap lineup, and I like all of that stuff. Now, granted, this is a lot of hand traps, so the power level of the deck is basically you slow your opponent down to a crawl, and that's kind of how you have to do it. So if you don't draw 2 hand traps, even if you have full combo and you're going first, it does kind of suck, and you kind of have to draw not Gamma if you're going first, but it's still good. Moving on to the extra deck, we have ourselves one Djinn Buster. This can only be made with dark monsters, which means you can't use things like red or a carrot, but that's okay. This card's really good, just negating a monster effect. You can actually go like blue into elf, into this guy, into, you know, like a starter or something like that, to continue your plays. And then that way, if you have access to extra 2s, you can like negate something like a Nibiru if you're expecting your opponent to have it, or a Gamma, or an Ash, or whatever it may be, right? Which is pretty cool. Being able to go into this early to kind of protect yourself from a hand trap is nice. Then we have the Sky Cavalry Centuria to go into our Zeus. That's basically all that it's there for. However, I have gone into this a few times to like spin something away, which is pretty nice, and then not go into Zeus. We have ourselves the Mannequin Cat. I actually just put this in. I never summoned it, but I was originally playing Shark Cat because it allows you to use Gigantic Splite a little bit better. The problem is with this build, you don't actually use the additional boost from the Gigantic Splite because you're not like using Sprint or something like that, and you're not using the Runic cards, so it never really becomes 3200. So boosting it to 64 doesn't really happen. So I just cut it. We have the one Onibimaru Soul Sweeper. This card's pretty good. Of course, we have the 2 Gigantic Splites. I don't know if more people are playing like 3 copies of this. Realistically, you only need 2. In fact, you probably only need 1. So if you want to cut something, you could probably cut this to 1 and it'd be fine. And then, of course, the 1 Zeus. But yeah, 2 definitely comes up. Then, of course, we have ourselves the 1 IP Masquerena, the 1 the Dark Charmer. I don't know. It's nice. This one has come up very rarely, but just having access to an additional 2 to go into something else is also nice. We have ourselves a triple Elf. Elf is absolutely insane. This card is banned in the TCG and probably should be banned in the OCG as well, and will probably, maybe it will be banned in Master Duel, but we'll see. This card is absolutely insane. Just a level 2 monster. Allows you to make this, and it's just any 2 monsters from there. You can also use it with a Link 2 monster, which means you can go Dark, steal a monster, and then go into Elf, which is kind of crazy. But also, your opponent cannot target cards that this card points to. Also, you get to revive a level 2, or if your opponent controls a monster, a rank or Link 2 from your graveyard during the opponent's turn. Also during your turn. Don't know why this is the case, but okay. Moving on, we have ourselves the 1 Nightmare Unicorn to pair with the IP Masquerena. We also have the Avermax. Avermax is just very nice on the ladder because a lot of people aren't necessarily prepared for the outs, or like have the outs to this card. So being able to just go IP Masquerena, protected Avermax, go is kind of funny. And then, of course, Underworld Goddess. This card actually gets summoned quite often with the IP Masquerena. You basically summon a whole bunch of monsters, use your elf and stuff like that, and then you go into this, linking away like a Link 2 or something like that to cut them off of 2s, to turn off their combos, to just steal a big monster. Yeah, it's just very strong. So that's the deck. Let's hop into the replays and show you how this deck performs. Alright, so here we are going first, and we drew Emergency Teleport and Starter. So, during the standby phase, I am going to activate my Emergency Teleport. Out comes their Max C, and then I will promptly fire the Sprite Starter. So we're going to special summon out our blue, and then we are also going to special summon out our Gamma. They will draw a card. We're going to activate the blue effect, which they will promptly Gamma. Okay, there's nothing I can do about that. Sure. I don't activate the Maxi here because I'm almost certain that I know what my opponent is playing, and so I kind of want to keep the Maxi if I can. We're going to go to main phase. I'm going to normal summon the Kara, and then we are going to link off into a Splite Elf. and then I'm going to set the Cosmic Cyclone and pass, hoping that the Carrot and the Maxi are enough. They're going to go for their Sprite starter themselves, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. They go for red here, and I'm like, oh, well, that kind of sucks for me now, doesn't it? But, hey, we end up drawing into Ash, which is very funny, and I'm going to Ash the blue. Okay, that goes through. They go for their own Splight Elf here. I'm going to draw another card. They're going to target their blue again. They're going to bring it back, and then they're going to proceed to battle. Crash the elves and attack in for a bit of damage. Now, we do have a pretty decent hand, but hey, Maxi is a fair and balanced card when both players draw it, right? Anyway, we're going to go for the Nimble Beaver. Of course, they are going to negate this, and I'm going to just chain here the Emergency Teleport just to kind of, because I can. Out comes the Splite Elf. Splite Elf is then going to bring back the blue, and my opponent scoops it up, realizing that the game is over. Yeah. Splite. Alright, so here we are once again going first, and we drew starter. That's pretty nice. So I'm actually going to fire this during the standby phase. Now, at this point, this was still pretty early into the meta, and so I hadn't really noticed if people were playing Valor or not. They aren't, so I would honestly say hold your starter till the end of your plays to get a potential follow-up off of the starter, like an additional card if you need to. Because it's very nice to just, like, get full combo off of that one card if you need, like if they have Nibiru or if they have something along those lines. Here I fire it in the standby phase because I didn't know if they were playing the Valor, so that's what I'm playing around. But also it allows me to get access to red, so we can just special summon the red and then immediately go off to the races. So we are now going to go and grab ourselves the Nimble Beaver. Nimble Beaver will then be used for link material into the Elf, and then we go into Gigantic. Gigantic is going to activate its effect in order to go into Jet, and then we are going to bring back the blue because they are two darks in order to go into Jin Buster. This card is really good. We're going to set a card and pass. So we don't have too much. We have basically two effect negations, or two monster effect negations, and that's basically it. We're going to negate the Eperia, and then we are going to see that they are playing Runics, and so we are going to bring back our Jet, just because we can, and it will get us additional advantage. They add the Freezing Curse here, that's fine. We're going to add it to the hand the starter, and this Nibiru is kind of dead in the water now as well. They're going to activate their Freezing Curses in order to special summon out their Hugin. Then they're going to go 1-2, that's fine. We're going to go for the Smashers in order to banish a card. We're going to banish the Jet as well as the Fountain. Of course, they have the second Fountain, that's fine. Out comes Gigantic Sprite after they summoned the Carrot, and they have a shiny one, nice. They're going to go and activate the effect of the Gigantic, which we will promptly negate with the Jin Buster, and then they will skip their battle phase. We also deal 500 because it's funny. We draw Carrot, which is fantastic. That is just an insane draw. They're going to negate our effect with Called By. That's fine. We're just going to bring out the Pixies. We are going to then Xyz summon it into a Gigantic. We're going to activate the effect of the Gigantic to bring out a Jet. Jet will then go for the Onibimaru. And at this point, we have Lethal. We just have to Tribute Summon Driver. Yes, I had Lethal prior to it, but it's funny. Trust. The Jin Buster's not doing anything anyway, so we're just going to attack in for Lethal. Now, yeah, you know, Splight. Alright, now what does this deck do going second? Well, it opens multiple hand traps, which against a lot of decks, including Splight itself, is oftentimes enough. We have full combo, technically. It's not the greatest of full combos, but we do have it. And at this point, I see that my opponent is playing the branded stuff, and I'm going to stop at the Aluber, because I'm pretty sure that they already have the branded Fusion, because of course they do, and yeah, there it is. But the reason I stopped the Aluber is because I don't want them to get something like Lost. Lost becomes a bit of a problem, so I didn't want that. We're going to negate the branded Fusion, and they will pass the turn. They also pitched a Driver from hand, because of course they did. We draw an Ash for turn. Not the greatest, but that's okay. We're going to go and normal summon Pixies, special summon the Carrot, and then we go into Gigantic Splite. Gigantic Splite is going to activate its effect, and we had the Called By, as well as the Ash Blossom, so even if they had something like Maxi, or if they had like an Effect Veiler, we're fine, right? The only thing that we would necessarily be worried about is... wait for it. Droll. So, Droll comes down and, well, guess what? We have the Called By. We're just a better player. Sorry to break your tiny little heart. Anyway, out comes the Jet. We're going to grab up our starter. We're going to then link summon into our Splite Elf. We're going to activate the effect in order to bring back the Carrot, because we want a negate. And then we're just going to go to battle. Why did I grab starter here? So that we can grab access to red if we need to, or we can grab access to whatever it may be. I'm going to grab up the red here, and then we are going to pass the turn. So we have a pretty decent board, and at that point, my opponent realizes that the game is over. Also, on top of that, we had Ash Blossom, so even if they did draw a Branded Fusion, it wouldn't have mattered, because Carrot 1 negates effects, so they would have had, like, they would have needed, yeah, it didn't matter what they had, they were done. So now that we handily clapped the previous top deck, what about Mathmech? Well, let me show you. So we're going to start off again with the starter in the standby phase to grab up Jet, since we already have blue, so we're going to grab up our Smashers. We're then going to go and special summon the blue. We're going to activate the effect in order to grab up Carrot. Why am I grabbing up Carrot? Because I'm more worried, again, about spells and traps than I am about the other stuff. I'm not necessarily as worried about, like, the monsters or what have you, especially with Djinn Buster, so there you go. Out comes the Ghost Spell. This is why we went for Djinn Buster. We're going to activate the effect. So yeah, Nimble Beaver is going to resolve, because I do kind of need that extra too. We're then going to link off into a Splight Elf. We're going to activate the effect in order to bring back the blue. We're then going to Z summon into the Gigantic. We're going to activate the Gigantic effect in order to grab up our red. We're then going to link off into an IP Mask Arena. And then we will set 1 and pass. Also Driver in hand. Nice, love to see it. My opponent is going to start off with the Signet Mining. I'm going to Ash this, sure. And of course they have a Called By. I probably should have immediately, well, I didn't really have time to get back the Carrot. It wouldn't have resolved this issue. But, yeah, this is why I'm more worried about spells. Spells are obviously more powerful, and, there you go. I'm going to grab up the blue here, though, instead of grabbing up Carrot, because I'm like, I don't really think that I need to grab up any, like, spell trap negation. Instead, I'm going to go for Pixies. Why? Because I'm worried about access code. But if they cannot actually clear the field in its entirety, which hopefully something like Splight Smashers as well as the red will prevent them from actually being able to do that, we can basically just guarantee that we win a combat with Pixies. So that's kind of the idea there. They're going to go for Circular here with the Sigma. I'm actually going to just keep the Circular in their hand because I don't want it to actually go to the grave, because I noticed that they added the Diameter. So out comes the Diameter. They're going to grab up the Sigma, and at this point I will activate the IP Mask Arena to tag out into Unicorn. At this point my opponent realizes that the game is over and concedes. Yeah, you could just sometimes put up enough interactions and that's all you need. And we're back with the deck. So, honestly, this is the version that I kind of expected it to do well, and also is doing really well. Splite is just absolutely everywhere, and this deck is really just a monster. The biggest issue with this version of the deck is bricking. While the deck is very, very consistent, with only access to 2 starters, it does kind of hurt. You also only have access to the 2 emergency teleports as well as the 2 gammas, and you just sometimes don't have enough 2s to actually go into your full plays, because you draw like just a myriad of hand traps. Also, not drawing the right hand traps because of like, you may go against Runic and then you draw Nib and it's like, well, that's not great. You know, you may not go against, or you know, you may go against Branded and then, you know, drawing something like Effect Veiler isn't going to be all that good. Or like your opponent ends up drawing Called By and then, you know, negates one of your hand traps. There's a whole bunch of stuff like that where it's just like, you just kind of can't do everything. Sometimes you have a little bit more of an inconsistent hand, especially if you draw things like Pixies and Carrot and Red and all of that stuff instead of drawing things like Blue or Jet. But honestly, this is still a great version of the deck. The deck is still consistent, even though I said this is like the brickier version of the deck. It's still more consistent than a lot of other decks in the previous format. Elf is an absolute powerhouse of a card that just is insane. Being able to constantly generate you advantage. If it sticks around for more than 1 turn, it just kind of immediately does everything. This is another reason to kind of do stuff in like the draw phase or in the standby phase so that people can't activate their Elf or their IP Mask Arena. So there's that. But yeah, just truly a weird meta. And I like it. It's fun. I like the 2s. I like the way that they function. And this deck was very entertaining. So hopefully you guys did indeed enjoy. If you did, a like is very much appreciated. And if you want to check out more content like this, as well as more Yu-Gi-Oh!, then just be sure to subscribe. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. And remember to always stay frosty. Bye-bye. Shout out to the Frost Guard, my members. Thank you guys so much for the support, and I hope you enjoy the content.